If you're hearing this story for the first time, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our thrilling narratives. Now let me tell you about a family whose secrets were about to come to light after 35 years. The sun was setting in Oaxaca as Ana sat with a photo album in her lap. Her fingers, marked by 58 years of life, tenderly traced the image of her firstborn, Ricardo. 20 years had passed since that night when the phone rang with the news that would shatter her heart forever. Across the room, Jorge, her husband, was working on a small wooden sculpture. The scent of sawdust mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, creating that atmosphere that had been the couple's refuge for so many years. The carpenter's calloused hands moved with the precision of someone who had mastered the craft for decades, but his eyes carried an invisible weight that Ana had never fully understood. "I've been thinking about updating our will," Ana said, carefully closing the album. "Ricardo has been gone for so long, and we need to make sure everything is in order for Alejandra and our grandkids." Jorge paused for a moment, the tool suspended in the air. Something in his expression shifted subtly. "Yes, you're right," he replied, returning to his work. "We can go to the notary tomorrow." The silence that followed was thick, like the wood Jorge was carving. Ana watched her husband closely. After 35 years of marriage, she knew every nuance of his expression, every inflection in his voice. Something was bothering him, but like so many times before, he kept it to himself. The next morning, while they were having breakfast, the phone rang. It was Alejandra. "Mom, Dad, how are my favorite parents doing today?" Her voice sounded overly cheerful on the other end. Ana smiled. Since Ricardo's death, her daughter had changed dramatically. The reserved and distant girl had transformed into a caring woman, always present. An unexpected comfort amidst the pain of loss. "We're fine, sweetheart. Your dad and I are planning to update our will today." A brief silence followed before Alejandra responded. "Oh, what a coincidence. Manuel and I were just talking about that yesterday. You guys are of the age to organize these things, right? I can come with you if you want." Jorge shot a meaningful glance at Ana. "You don't have to, dear," Ana replied. "We know how busy you are with the woodworking business. How's that going, by the way?" Another silence. "This time longer. Everything's fine, Mom, just some normal challenges. Nothing to worry about." When they hung up, Ana noticed that her daughter hadn't asked about the contents of the will. Not directly, but there was something in the way she had offered to join them that seemed oddly calculated. In the notary's office, while discussing the distribution of their 1,800,000 pesos, Ana noticed Jorge seemed restless. When they mentioned the possibility of leaving a small portion to charity in memory of Ricardo, Jorge gripped her hand tightly. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "Yes," he replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just tired." On their way home, they were surprised to find Alejandra and Manuel waiting for them at the door. Their daughter's face was tense despite the forced smile. "So, how did it go?" she asked, trying to sound casual as she followed her parents inside. "It was smooth," Ana replied, watching her daughter's reaction closely. "We decided to leave a portion for charity." Alejandra's smile faltered for a moment. "Charity? But all the money you saved, wouldn't it be better to keep it in the family?" Manuel placed a hand on his wife's shoulder as if to calm her. "What Alejandra means is that you've worked so hard. You deserve to see the fruits of that work benefiting your grandkids," he said in a conciliatory tone. Ana observed the couple with growing suspicion. There was something in her daughter's eyes that felt oddly familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. "Have you thought about selling this house?" Manuel asked abruptly, changing the subject. "It's too big for just the two of you. You could buy something smaller, easier to maintain, and use the difference to enjoy life." Jorge, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. "This has been our home for 30 years. We raised our children here. This is where we lived our lives. And this is where Ricardo spent his last days," Ana added. We have no intention of moving." The silence that followed was piercing. Alejandra stared at her mother with an expression Anna had never seen before. For a brief moment, something dark and disturbing flickered in her eyes. "You're still stuck in the past," Alejandra said, regaining her composure. "Ricardo has been gone for 20 years. You can't keep holding on to ghosts forever." The words hit Anna like a slap. Never in all those years had Alejandra spoken about her brother with such coldness. In the weeks that followed, Anna began to notice a disturbing pattern. Alejandra called almost daily, always mentioning in some way the will or the house. Manuel frequently showed up with documents for them to sign, power of attorney, bank authorizations, always with vague explanations about making the help they might need due to their age easier. One particularly tense afternoon, when Alejandra insisted again that they should give her and Manuel full power of attorney over their finances, Inda lost her patience. "Why the insistence, Alejandra? We may be old, but we're not incapable. What's really going on?" Her daughter's face paled before contorting into a mask of contained anger. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mom. I just want to protect you." "Protect us from what?" Alejandra suddenly stood up, gathering her purse. "Forget it. I see you don't appreciate my concerns. Maybe you should remember who's here taking care of you now that Ricardo isn't." The mention of her brother's name that way made Anna shudder. There was something deeply wrong in the way Alejandra spoke of him, as if he were a tool, an instrument for manipulation. That night, after dinner, Jorge seemed especially troubled. Sitting on the porch under the starry Oaxaca sky, Inna finally confronted her husband. "There's something you're not telling me. Jorge, you've been carrying a weight for years that you don't share with me. And now, with everything going on with Alejandra, I need to know what's happening." Jorge remained silent for several long minutes, his eyes fixed on the horizon. When he finally spoke, his voice was choked. "Anna, what I'm going to tell you will shatter your heart, just as it shattered mine 20 years ago." He took a deep breath, as if preparing to dive into deep, dark waters. Ricardo didn't die in an accident. The world seemed to freeze around Anna. The air suddenly felt too heavy for her lungs. "What are you saying?" "That night in Cancun, I was there. Not at the cliff, but close enough. I had gone out to look for Ricardo when he didn't come back to the hotel." Jorge covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. "I heard voices arguing. It was Ricardo and Alejandra." His daughter's name slipped from his lips like a painful whisper. They were fighting over money. Ricardo had found out that Alejandra had been stealing from us for months. Small amounts from my office, from your purse. He confronted her, demanding she confess to us. Anna felt the world spin around her. Each word Jorge spoke hit her like a hammer. I saw them from a distance, near the edge of the cliff. They were shouting at each other. And then Jorge swallowed hard, tears streaming freely down his aged face. Alejandra pushed him, deliberately, with both hands. I saw when Ricardo fell, screaming. Anna felt nauseous, unable to process the horror of that revelation. Why didn't you ever tell me?" Jorge looked up devastated. "Because she saw me." She ran to me, desperate, swearing it was an accident, that he slipped, that she never meant to hurt her brother. She begged me not to tell anyone, that it would destroy our lives. "And you believed her?" Anna whispered, incredulous. "Not completely, but she was our daughter, our girl. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her too. So I made a deal with her. I would keep her secret if she never did anything like that again." Jorge ran his hands through his graying hair. "But she never stopped stealing from us. Inna, small amounts over the years. I became an accomplice to her crime to protect her, to protect you from the truth." Anna stood up, unsteady, leaning against the porch railing. "And now she wants everything," she murmured. "Not just a few bills here and there. She wants everything we have." As if to confirm her words, the phone rang inside the house. Jorge answered with trembling hands, activating the speakerphone. "Dad, is Mom with you?" Alejandra's voice sounded cheerful. I have a surprise. I managed to organize a special outing to celebrate your 35 years of marriage next weekend. A hike to that beautiful viewpoint in the Sierra Madre Oriental. It'll be perfect for taking amazing photos." Ana and Jorge exchanged horrified glances. It didn't need to be said aloud what they both thought. Their daughter was planning to kill them. The next morning, while Alejandra believed they were busy preparing for the outing, Ana and Jorge began their own investigation. Jorge reached out to an old police friend, discreetly requesting information about Alejandra's woodworking business. The report they received was devastating. The company was on the brink of bankruptcy, accumulating debts of over 400,000 pesos with banks and suppliers. Several checks had bounced due to insufficient funds, and suppliers were threatening lawsuits. "She's desperate," Ana concluded, looking at the documents spread across the kitchen table. "She sees our money as her only salvation." Jorge nodded slowly, his face marked by decades of guilt and pain. "All these years, I thought I was protecting our daughter, but I only allowed her to become this." Ana held her husband's hands between hers. "We can't change the past, Jorge, but we can stop her from hurting anyone else." That afternoon, Ana visited her younger sister Carmen, whom she hadn't spoken to in months. Without revealing the whole truth, she shared her concerns about Alejandra's strange behavior. "If something happens to me and Jorge," she said, handing Carmen a sealed envelope, "open this and take it straight to the police." "Ana, you're scaring me," Carmen replied, worried. "What's going on?" "Just keep this safe. And if you don't hear from us after next weekend, don't wait. Go straight to the authorities." Meanwhile, Jorge was preparing his own plan. He set his cell phone to record automatically and tested its ability to capture conversations, even when hidden. He also secretly visited his lawyer, updating the will to include a clause that would prevent any beneficiary accused of crimes against the testators from receiving any part of the inheritance. The night before the outing, Ana couldn't sleep. Watching Jorge's sleeping face beside her, she allowed herself to cry silently. For Ricardo, for the future that had been stolen from her. For the family she thought she had, but that never really existed. In the early hours of the morning, when she finally managed to fall asleep, she dreamt of her firstborn. In the dream, Ricardo smiled at her from a boat, slowly drifting away from the shore. "Don't let her win, Mom," he said, his voice carried by the wind. "The truth needs to come to light." Ana woke with a racing heart and a renewed certainty. They were going to meet Alejandra and Manuel, but not as helpless victims. They would go as parents determined to confront the terrible truth that their daughter had become. Saturday dawned with a clear blue sky, almost offensively beautiful for what was to come. Alejandra and Manuel arrived promptly at 8, smiling and carrying a picnic basket. "We've prepared everything," Alejandra exclaimed, hugging her mother with exaggerated enthusiasm. "It's going to be an unforgettable day." A chill ran down Anna's spine as she noticed the emphasis on the word unforgettable. In her daughter's eyes, there was no warmth that her words pretended, only a cold, calculating determination that Ana now recognized had always been there, just well disguised. During the drive to the trailhead, Alejandra talked incessantly, reminiscing about childhood stories and family moments with a nostalgia that sounded completely false to Ana's ears. Manuel at the wheel remained silent, his eyes occasionally meeting Alejandra's in the rearview mirror in exchanges that didn't go unnoticed. "I remembered to bring my extra phone," Jorge said casually, showing an old device. "Mine is low on battery." "Oh, you won't need that, Dad," Alejandra replied quickly. "Today is about disconnecting from technology. Besides, there's no good signal up there. Even so, I'd rather take it. To take pictures." Alejandra shrugged, but Ana noticed a momentary flash of irritation on her face. The hike began on a well-known trail frequented by tourists and locals. For almost an hour, they followed well-marked paths with other groups of hikers occasionally passing by. "It's this way," Manuel suddenly said, pointing to a nearly imperceptible fork between the trees. "We discovered this alternative path last week. It leads to a much prettier viewpoint, and practically no one knows about it." Ana felt Jorge's hand tighten around hers, conveying a silent message. They were entering the territory of Alejandra's plan. "Are you sure it's safe?" Ina asked, feigning genuine concern. "Of course, Mom," Alejandra replied, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Trust me." The words hung in the air like a veiled threat. As they advanced down the side trail, the vegetation became denser and the terrain steeper. Ina noticed that Manuel always walked ahead, as if guiding the group, while Alejandra strategically stayed behind them, blocking any route of return. After another 30 minutes of hiking, the sound of running water began to grow audible. "We're almost there," Manuel announced, his tone strangely cheerful. "The viewpoint is just beyond those trees." When they emerged from the thick vegetation, Ana and Jorge found themselves in front of a breathtaking view. They were on top of a cliff about 30 meters high, with a river winding below them between jagged rocks. The natural beauty contrasted brutally with the ugliness of the moment they were living. "Isn't it magnificent?" Alejandra exclaimed, moving closer to the edge. "Come on, let's take some photos of you with this amazing view." Ana felt her body instinctively resist, but forced herself to step forward. Jorge, by her side, kept one hand in the pocket where he had stored the phone set to record. "Get really close to the edge to capture the whole landscape," Manuel instructed, already positioning the camera. Ana and Jorge stood about 2 meters from the edge of the cliff, tense but determined. "Closer," Alejandra insisted, moving in behind them. "You can't see the river from this angle." Ana looked directly into her daughter's eyes, their gazes locking in a moment of absolute clarity. She saw not only the intent to kill them, but something far worse, the same expression Jorge had described, the one Alejandra had when she pushed Ricardo 20 years ago. "Sweetheart," Ana said gently, "why are you doing this?" The question caught Alejandra off guard. For a moment, her facade of normalcy wavered. "Doing what, Mom?" "I just want a good photo of you." Jorge pulled out the phone, holding it openly. "It's recording, Alejandra. Everything you say now will be documented." Manuel stepped forward, alarmed. Alejandra froze for a second before letting out a forced laugh. "What are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke?" "We know about Ricardo," Ana said, keeping her voice steady despite the tremor in her body. "Jorge told me what he saw that night in Cancun." Alejandra's face changed instantly. The mask of the devoted daughter disintegrated, revealing an expression of fury and cold calculation that Ana could never have imagined seeing in her own blood. "So the old man finally spoke," Alejandra hissed, glaring at her father. "After 20 years of keeping secrets, he decides to open his mouth right now." Manuel looked confused, glancing between his wife and her parents. "Alejandra, what's going on? What are they talking about?" "Shut up," she replied without taking her eyes off her parents. "They know everything. About Ricardo. About the money." Ana stepped forward, searching for any remnant of the daughter she believed she had raised. "Why, Alejandra? What happened to you to become this?" Alejandra let out a bitter laugh. "What happened to me? Do you really want to know? I spent my whole life being the second choice. Ricardo, the perfect one. Ricardo, the brilliant one. Ricardo, the future of the family." Her eyes shone with deep-seated resentment. "He found out I was taking money from you. He threatened to expose me. Said I was a disgrace to the family, that I would never be anything compared to him. So you pushed him," Jorge completed, his voice heavy with pain. "You killed your own brother for money and envy." It was a moment of rage. Alejandra shouted. "But then I realized that without him I would finally have the chance to be seen. And it worked, didn't it? Suddenly, I was the perfect daughter, the only one left. The one who deserved everything." Manuel looked horrified, finally grasping the magnitude of what was happening. "Alejandra, you never told me." "Don't be an idiot," she cut him off. Why do you think we're here? Our business is failing. We owe money to people who won't hesitate to hurt us. This is our only way out." She took a step towards her parents, her eyes locked onto theirs. "You have 1,800,000 pesos. With that, we can pay off our debts and start over somewhere else. It's the least you owe me after a life spent in the shadow of the perfect son who's gone." Anna felt a profound pain, realizing that the daughter she loved had never truly existed. She was merely a facade, a carefully crafted performance over 20 years. "We won't let you hurt us, Alejandra," she said firmly. "The police are on their way." It was a lie, but Anna needed to buy time. Panic crossed Alejandra's face for a moment, but quickly turned into determination. "Then I have nothing to lose, do I?" With a swift and decisive movement, she lunged at her parents, shoving them towards the edge of the cliff. Everything happened in seconds. As Anna felt Alejandra's hands on her back, Jorge instinctively reacted, twisting his body and grabbing his daughter's arm. Enna, off balance from the push, tried to grab Manuel, who had moved forward to help his wife. The four of them fell together. The fall seemed endless. Enna saw the blue sky swirl above her, heard screams. She couldn't tell if they were hers or the others. Her body hit the steep slope, rolling between bushes and rocks that partially cushioned the impact before finally reaching the bottom of the cliff. The pain was indescribable. Enna felt as if every bone in her body had shattered, every muscle torn. Even breathing was agonizing. Through half-closed eyes, she saw Jorge a few meters away, motionless. A bit further off, Alejandra and Manuel were also down. For a terrible moment, Anna thought they were all dead. Then she saw Jorge's chest rise and fall slowly. He was alive. With superhuman effort, Anna forced her body to remain still, breathing shallowly. Something instinctive told her to pretend to be unconscious, or worse. What felt like hours passed, but it was probably only minutes, until she heard movement. Low voices. "We're alive," Alejandra murmured, her voice choked with pain. "I can't believe we're alive." "Are they dead?" Manuel asked with difficulty. Anna kept her eyes closed, her body absolutely still despite the agony coursing through it. "I don't know. I can't see if they're breathing from here," Alejandra replied. Dragging footsteps approached. Anna felt her daughter's presence hovering over her. A hand touched her wrist briefly. "My mom's pulse is really weak," Alejandra said, "and my dad doesn't look any better. Even if they're alive now, they won't last long without help." "We need to call for help," Manuel said, his voice trembling. "This has gone too far, Alejandra. I never agreed to kill anyone." "Shut up," she hissed. "Now listen, we'll climb up and get help. We'll say it was an accident, that we were taking photos and the ground gave way. But we need to make sure they don't survive to tell another version." "What do you mean?" Manuel asked, horrified. "We need to ensure they don't get help fast enough." Anna felt her heart squeeze. Her own daughter was coldly calculating how long it would take for them to die from their injuries. "I can't do this," Manuel protested. "I've gone too far for you, Alejandra. First the lies, then the debts, and now this is attempted murder." "Just like it was with Ricardo," Alejandra replied, her voice strangely calm. "I pushed him off that cliff in Cancun because he found out I was stealing money from our parents. My dad saw everything, but kept the secret all these years, and I had to use every ounce of self-control not to react to that explicit confession." "My God, Alejandra," Manuel whispered. You killed your own brother?" "It was an accident that turned into opportunity. Just like this will be. Now we have to go up and create our story before anyone shows up." Anna heard the footsteps dragging away as Alejandra and Manuel began their climb up the slope. Only when she could no longer hear their voices did Anna allow herself to open her eyes and look at Jorge. To her relief, he was also conscious, his eyes open and fixed on her with a mix of pain and determination. "You heard?" she whispered. Jorge nodded slightly. "The phone," he murmured with difficulty. "It's still recording." Time passed with agonizing slowness. Enna and Jorge remained still, both gravely injured but aware, fearing that Alejandra or Manuel might return at any moment to check on their condition. The pain was almost unbearable. But the thought of Ricardo, of justice finally being served for their son, gave them the strength to endure. After what seemed like hours, they heard distant voices. Shouts for help, people calling. "It's working," Jorge whispered. They brought help, but their story will be the only one heard if we don't survive to tell the truth. Ana weakly squeezed her husband's hand. "We will survive," she promised. When the rescue team finally reached the bottom of the cliff, Ana and Jorge continued their act of pretending to be on the brink of death. They listened to the concerned voices of the rescuers, Alejandra's dramatic explanations about how the ground just gave way while they were taking photos. They were carefully placed on stretchers and lifted to the top of the cliff. With eyes half closed, Ana saw Alejandra's face, twisted in a mask of concern for the rescuers, but with cold, calculating eyes when she thought no one was watching. In the hospital, they were placed in separate rooms. Ina was informed that she had multiple fractures and bruises, but would survive. From Jorge, she only received vague information about his stable condition. From her room's window, she watched the sunset, marking the end of one of the longest and most terrible days of her life. She was just about to fall asleep when the door opened quietly. Alejandra entered alone. Ina immediately closed her eyes, regulating her breathing to appear unconscious. She felt her daughter approaching the bed, then the warmth of her breath close to her ear. "I hope you've learned your lesson, Mom," Alejandra whispered coldly. "You should never have asked so many questions about our finances. Some truths are better left buried, just like Ricardo." Ana remained perfectly still, despite the rage and pain coursing through her body. What Alejandra didn't realize was that a young nurse had entered silently to check Ana's vital signs. Maria, a recent graduate and attentive, stood frozen at the door, listening in horror to the whispered words. When Alejandra finally left, Maria quickly approached the bed. "Ms. Ana?" she called softly. "I know you're awake. I heard what your daughter said." Ana slowly opened her eyes, meeting the worried gaze of the nurse. "Please," Ana whispered with difficulty, "I need to see my husband. It's a matter of life and death." Maria hesitated for just a moment before nodding. "I'll help you. But first we need to talk to Dr. Velasquez." In less than an hour, the hospital's chief doctor, a 60-year-old woman with piercing eyes and an authoritative demeanor, was standing by Ana's bed along with 2 police officers. Maria had reported what she'd heard, triggering a swift mobilization. "Ms. Gutierrez, we know you're gravely injured, but we need to understand what really happened at that cliff," one of the officers said gently. Ana looked at each face around her, gathering strength to tell a story that had remained hidden for 2 decades. "My daughter Alejandra tried to kill us," she began, her voice trembling but determined. "And it wasn't the first time she took a life." During the next hour, Ina recounted everything: the murder of Ricardo 20 years ago, Jorge's confession, the mounting financial pressures, and the attempts to gain control over their estate, culminating in a murder plot disguised as a family outing. "My husband has a phone," she concluded. "It was recording everything. It should be with his belongings." Jorge's phone was quickly located. To everyone's relief, it had continued recording even after the fall, clearly capturing Alejandra's confession about Ricardo's murder and her intentions regarding her parents. As the police discreetly mobilized to arrest Alejandra and Manuel, Ina was taken to see Jorge. Her husband was connected to various monitors and tubes, but his eyes lit up upon seeing her. "It's over," she whispered, carefully holding his hand. "They have the recording. The truth has finally come to light." A tear rolled down Jorge's wrinkled face. "All these years keeping that secret," he murmured. "I should have told you sooner. I could have prevented all this." "Don't blame yourself," Ana replied, stroking his face. "We did what we thought would protect our family. We could never have imagined that our own daughter..." Her voice faltered, unable to finish the sentence. In the hallway, they heard a commotion. Shouts of protest, Alejandra's voice rising in fury as she was detained by the police. "You don't understand. It was an accident. My parents are delirious from the medication." Maria quickly closed the room door, shielding Ana and Jorge from that painful scene. In the days that followed, as they slowly recovered from their injuries, more dark details came to light. The police investigation revealed that Alejandra not only owed money to banks and suppliers, but also to dangerous loan sharks who had already made concrete threats. It was also discovered that she had forged her parents' signatures on several documents, trying to access their bank accounts repeatedly in recent months. A detailed audit showed that she had managed to siphon off around 180,000 pesos over 3 years through small withdrawals and fraudulent transactions. Manuel, initially detained as an accomplice, began to cooperate with the authorities. He claimed he had no knowledge of Ricardo's murder, but admitted to being aware of the plan to accidentally push Ana and Jorge off the cliff. 6 months after the incident, when Ana and Jorge had returned to a modified version of their lives, the trial began. The courtroom was packed on the day Ana was called to testify. Before the jurors and the judge, she recounted with painful precision the events that had destroyed her family. When she finally looked directly at Alejandra, sitting with an impassive expression next to her lawyer, Ana felt a strange calm. "What you did cannot be forgiven," she said, ignoring the prosecutor's protests about addressing the defendant directly. "You not only took your brother's life, but also stole 20 years of truth from our lives. We lived in a lie that you created." Alejandra held her gaze without showing remorse. "You are no longer my daughter," Ana concluded, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "My daughter died the same day Ricardo did." The jury deliberated for 2 days before returning with the verdict. Guilty of intentional homicide for Ricardo's death and aggravated attempted homicide against her parents. Manuel received the same sentence as an accomplice. Both were sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of early parole. A year after the trial, Ana and Jorge began a new chapter in their lives. They sold the house filled with painful memories and bought a smaller one near the beach in Cancun, not to reopen wounds, but to finally heal them, being close to the place where Ricardo had spent his last moments. More importantly, they began the formal adoption process for their grandchildren, the true innocent victims of all that tragedy. The children, aged 7 and 9, had been temporarily placed under the care of Manuel's relatives, but longed for their grandparents' affection. Ana never visited Alejandra in prison, unable to look into the eyes of the woman who killed her son and tried to kill her. Jorge went once, but returned dejected, reporting that she had only shown anger at being caught, with no signs of remorse. One autumn afternoon, walking along the beach with Jorge and the grandchildren, Ana stopped to watch the sunset over the ocean. The waves gently broke on the sand, and the voices of the children playing brought a joy she thought she might never feel again. "Some betrayals are too great to be forgiven," she said to Jorge, who held her hand. "But that doesn't mean we can't find peace." Jorge nodded, his eyes reflecting the orange horizon. "Ricardo finally got justice," he replied. "Even if it took 20 years." Ana closed her eyes, feeling the sea breeze on her face. For a moment, she could almost sense her son's presence finally at peace. "The truth always finds a way to come to light," she murmured, "no matter how long it takes." If you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment on what you thought. Your reactions motivate us to keep bringing narratives that touch the heart and make us reflect on family ties and the consequences of our choices. Until next time.